Well, good afternoon and welcome back. I hope you managed to grab a bit of a lunch break earlier. Now, before lunch, we were talking a lot about innovation, but more from the perspectives of businesses. We do know, however, that universities are also a treasure trove of patents and potentially life changing innovations. The big question is always, how do we get there? So it's my pleasure to have my next guest with us, Professor Freddy Boey, who's Deputy President of Innovation and Enterprise at the National University of Singapore. Besides that official role, Professor Freddy Boey himself has 127 patents under his belt, so I think he's surely no stranger from taking inventions from lab to market. Professor Freddy, welcome. It's my joy to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Professor Freddy, now we know that the whole innovation landscape is very much heating up, even with deep tech startups, with RE 2025 and Global Innovation Alliance. Tell us a bit more about your observations of the innovation landscape in Singapore and beyond, and the roles of universities in this landscape.
Yeah. I think in Singapore, the universities have participated in a very substantial way to build and transform the economy of Singapore. And of course, we do education. We train engineers. We train people to help run the economy. But increasingly in the last 2 decades, we've also done outstanding research. The last leg of this is that research needs to be translated into impact in societal or economic benefits. And that's where my position comes in. It's not enough to do research and gain knowledge. The knowledge must be translated into high impact societal or economic benefits. And that's where the university comes in. One of the things that we have in a dominant way is talent, as in students, researchers, and so on. So it's natural for us to focus on deep tech, startups, deep tech innovation. And this is where we think we can contribute very substantially. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor Freddy. Now, we all know that traditionally when people decide to be PhD or scientists, they just kind of like to stay doing science, conducting research. How has it been for you in your journey trying to get the scientists to now think like an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think while it is difficult to make a scientist into an innovator and then entrepreneur, it's probably impossible to do it the other way around. So they have a very good head start. A few years ago, that's 3 years ago, I managed to persuade the NUS Board of Trustees to accept a PhD by innovation approach. So basically what we're saying is that you can do a PhD, but not just in basic research, but in research that will inevitably land up as a business model with deep tech and a startup company. So there has been some transformation in this regard. The PhDs are a very high-level program, world-class, because they publish world-class patents. And if you publish world-class patents, then you get high valuation of a startup company that you will be part of. So this is one approach that we have taken. The other thing is that moving along from a scientist bench into commercialization needs not just a few people, but the whole village, so to speak. And this is again where my team comes in, where we help to accelerate the process of going from a good idea, scientific evidence, into a venture creation that other people would like to invest in. So we have a morph over a period of time. First, we do incubators. We are one of the pioneers, National University of Singapore. And then we move into accelerators. But today, where I stand, we are actually talking about doing venture creation, something that would be of value for other people to invest in. Thank you.
Could you tell us a bit more about that, how you went from accelerators to incubators and finally now to the venture creation portion? Perhaps give us an example or two from your vast experience.
Yeah, so we have started a program called the GRIP, G-R-I-P. That stands for Graduate Research Innovation Program. And what this does is that in 3 short months of hot housing, we bring a scientific idea into a business proposition. We have successfully done that over the last 2 years. Um, the way that we do it and the way I've approached this is that um, you cannot guarantee every startup to be successful. But if you do enough, amongst them, there will be some that will be successful. So sometimes I call myself a hatchery, a startup hatchery. We produce little fries, healthy ones, the good chances of success, no guarantee, but then it's for the investors to take over and grow this fry into big salmons for all its worth. Thank you.
I suppose you hedge enough. You know that some are not going to make it, but you're banking on the ones that do, and you take it forward from there.
That's right, because we really don't know. There are many jigsaw puzzles, many variables, not the least the technology, the team, its timing and everything. But, we increased the number. So I have dramatically increased the number of deep tech startups that came out of the university, something like 4 times. And this year, we might hit like 7 or 8 times before I joined.
Wow, so it sounds like even the scientists themselves are a little bit more receptive to this idea of becoming innovators, of course, along with your systemic efforts. I like the concept of a PhD in innovation. Is that an optional thing, or are you going to make it a kind of a mandatory component of all doctoral processes moving forward?
At the moment, it's optional. In the past, historically, when a person does a PhD, his ambition is to be a professor. Admittedly, professors stay for very long, and there's not many chances and positions for professors now.
It's a bit of a
So
bottleneck.
we have a lot more PhDs and a lot less positions for professors. So it's natural that PhD graduates consider other options. Some of them go on to do research, but many wants to impact the society by creating a startup company. So I will not be surprised over the next few years. More and more PhD will want to choose these routes or PhD by innovation. Thank you.
Oh, that is true. There's that bottleneck. Professors usually stay there forever till they retire and beyond. So for their own career progression.
I am a case in point.
So that you can continue staying there. We want to get the younger ones out into the market sooner as well.
That's right.
And interestingly, I don't know if you know this, Professor Boey, one of your NUS GRIP startups is actually part of Move SG's accelerator, H2C.
Yes, that's right.
On the heat conversion side.
Yes, it's a great example of how a team forms that pull out what they are doing in research. And within that 3 short months, we shortlisted them, we fund them to a tune of $100,000 in convertible loans. But the fact that we are doing that also enables other investors to come in very quickly. We also focus on helping them to develop as a team that is viable. My next move actually for this GRIP program is to compile a list of potential CEOs. Many of our students, graduates and researchers are good CTOs, but maybe not straight away CEOs. And so I'm now compiling a list of potential CEOs to again increase the value of what they are doing.
That is true. It reminds me a little bit of what Kelvin, Arthur, and Alex were talking about as well, mixing and matching the tech and non-tech talents, and also about what Lean Launchpad is doing to kind of mix your tech talents and also your commercial talents together.
That's right.
Did you want to share a bit more about that, as well as how some other universities globally have been trying to develop tech talents, or rather PhD talents, into entrepreneurial ones?
Yeah, it needs to be a very deliberate process, If you leave it by chance, very few of them will come to be, because it really takes perfect condition for a startup to be successful. So my role really is to ensure that as many of our researchers as possible participate in the program, and we help them to put everything together in a shorter time than longer. I often use a prior example of putting jigsaw puzzles together. And part of that is to do a matching and have a look at what they are lacking, and then find that person, and hopefully they have relationally they can come together, and then magic will happen.
That's true. I think H2C, like we've seen, is a case in point where programs like NUS GRIP Lean Launchpad really accelerate the process of team forming, finding the right talents, filling up all the gaps so that later stage investors can come in much earlier than they otherwise would.
That's right, yeah. And we have discovered that for the GRIP program, for every dollar that we invest in these startups, $4 from the private sector comes in. So it is a success by any count.
I think so. I think the numbers really do speak for itself. Now, moving forward into a global landscape, besides NUS, of course, what other universities do you see globally that has done a really good job of pushing their scientists out?
I think traditionally, of course, you have the Boston, you have the San Francisco, down to LA, even to San Diego. But watch out for the East. China and Southern China in particular. Shenzhen is an amazing place. They don't go to the university come down to Shenzhen. So that speaks a lot. Great talent. So the top few universities in China have started their campus in Shenzhen, Guangzhou area. By the way, NUS is now in Guangzhou in a fairly substantial way.
Are you partnering?
So we are ambitious. In Guangzhou, we are running it alone. And we are collaborating with the Guangzhou government for a very substantial program that will train 3,000 over of their young entrepreneurs in NUS campus, that means here in Singapore, and then send them back as our alumni.
So you use the opportunity to be trained in Singapore, almost like a little hook, right, to differentiate yourselves from the rest.
Yeah, because it's nothing like a local person who knows the market well, right? So and then they become our ambassadors.
Well, that is true. I think that's very, very smart. What can we look forward to? I mean, if you think about some of the other players in the market, say in China specifically, what are the universities doing in this commercialization programs that might be different from what the West has been running? And what can we learn from it?
My perception about the market here, whether Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, China, and maybe even Korea, is that the young people are really picking up this excitement and energy about innovation. The opportunity can be better, but they are increasingly dramatically. A lot of the young people are willing to take high risk. You have people in Vietnam. I started an office in Vietnam now because of the incredible energy of the young people. That what they need, other than energy, is deep technology. So this is where NUS can offer them, and then make them our alumni and so on. The other thing is that the society in these places are very keen on innovation. I mean, take a look at China. They are going to succeed in an incredible way with electric vehicles, right? And autonomous vehicles. So if the market is hungry, then the entrepreneurs have a fused day.
So it really sounds like a pan-Asia Pacific strategy. You have your hungry talents from China and Vietnam, which are also great test beds, and you combine them with the deep tech talents here available in Singapore as well, being a melting pot. And then you kind of conquer the whole of Asia Pacific together.
Well, we dare not use the word conquer, we just say collaborate.
Collaborate, yes.
But you're right. I mean, not in 100 years will Singapore ever have a huge market the size of ASEAN, 650 million people, and then China 1.4. So it is a perfect fit. We have spent a shameless amount of money in research, and we can do more than just Singapore. We can do China and ASEAN.
Well, I'm curious, right? Because earlier we talked about global universities, and then we zoomed into Asia. What would it take to? Sorry, let me paraphrase my question. Scientists, again, traditionally tend to be a bit of a risk-taking bunch. And we do see that sometimes after they set up their own companies or get bought out, the transition may not always be so smooth for some of them. How do universities like NUS help set up the founders for success, these scientific founders?
Yeah, I mean, there might be the odd person, the exception that can prove the point that he can be a scientist and become a great entrepreneur. Nanofilm, the company, is just one example. But by and large, professors do best by being professors, continue to do what they're good at, invent. And then we build an ecosystem that helps them to pull out their value, and they will benefit, but they do not need to run startup company. Because if you do run, you stop inventing, you see.
That's right. Interesting. So you're saying that they invent the IP and the patents, but they kind of maybe take a cut through licensing, but they can continue staying in academia if they want.
That's right. They should continue to invent, continue to start more than a few companies, and hopefully one of them will succeed.
That's true. And maybe stay as unofficial or maybe CTOs to multiple outfits, right? Why not?
Well, at least technical advisory or scientific advisory.
That's right. At least if they don't make it to professor and don't get your hefty salary, they have multiple sources of income.
But very often when professors start running a startup, they will realize that it's no fun. Startup, even the big corporate CEO, when they start running a little company, they regret because it's not so simple, right?
That's
you
true.
don't have people left, right, and center to do your stuff. You don't have postdocs and PhD students to be your slaves, so to speak. You're all on your own. But that is why in NUS, of course, we will not stop professors from doing their own company. We will help them. But we encourage them to continue inventing, and we help to pull out from their lab, things that can be commercial.
It's lovely. So I see you taking a very flexible, multi-pronged approach. For those that want to continue being scientists and inventors, you encourage them and you help them to extract value and pair it. For those that are a bit more open to going out and exploring for themselves, they could become CTOs, again with some bridging help from programs like NUS GRIP and Lean Launchpad. It's nice that there are many avenues to success. Now, of course, another big factor of success are professors like yourself, the people that drive these programs. How do you recruit? Do you recruit from internally within the university to run programs like GRIP, or do you bring in already innovative talents from outside?
Admittedly, it again may be the exception and the rule that professors are very good at commercialization because they don't spend time for that sort of stuff. They will be serial inventors and they're more experienced, but by and large, I do my recruitment in the commercial background, not in academia. I do have 2 or 3 ex-professors, maybe I can say that. They no longer are professors and they are happy to help me. But otherwise, it is really a team comprising of been there, done that, startup founders, and so on.
So since you have the luxury of seeing a whole range and slate of deep tech inventors, what do you think is the next thing we should be all looking out for, keeping our eyes peeled for?
I think the COVID has shown that Singapore can move fast and together. So we came out with quite a few inventions that are addressing COVID. And some of them are among the first in the world. Breathonics is one of them, using breath analysis to detect COVID. I myself came out with the swab to ensure that Singapore have enough stocks. So I think what we are good at as a country and as a people is that we all are well aligned. And you cannot find more support than the government of Singapore. I'm not political, but really, you can't hack it in Singapore. You can't hack it anywhere else. They are so supportive, The bureaucracy is just, it's a part of the price to pay, but they are so supportive. So my answer is that Singapore should perform more than its own weights over a period of time in innovation and in startup. I expect to see a significant increase in this activity. The young professors we are hiring now, many of them actually comes to this idea that I'm here in Singapore not just to do research with money, but that Singapore is a great place to do a startup company. So that is starting to happen. That's starting to happen.
So Singapore definitely fertile climate, if I hear you right, for test bedding. A lot of support from the government, and of course the young scientists themselves and professors are also changing their mindsets.
That's right. I think this is where we have an upper hand, if I can say so, over previously competitors like Hong Kong, Korea, even Japan and China. We have a leverage here. So we will continue to attract very good professors who have great inventions, who can more than just publish research papers. They have an idea to do innovation, but we need to help them. Like I said, they should continue inventing and we should help them to pull them out and commercialize them.
Well, that's lovely to hear how NUS has really been supporting your startups, scientists, and inventors to various parts of success. To round off, a bit of a fun question. If you look into your crystal ball over the next 3 to 5 years, name me 3 kind of deep tech areas that we really are going to see accelerate. Maybe the next unicorn, but a deep tech unicorn this time.
I will put a finger on urban farming.
Okay.
Because it is not just a wish to have, it is a die must have in local parlance.
Otherwise, we die.
Yeah, I mean, the COVID has shown it. So it's the top priority area. The other area may have to be mobility in a different form.
Mhm.
I think autonomous vehicle, we will be one of the first city to not just experiment and test it, but to commercialize it. I believe that. So these are two, and the third probably could be digital financing and so on. Again, because the infrastructure that we have, you know, allows us to do a lot of wonderful things.
Well, once again, thank you so much, Professor Freddy. So, urban farming mobility, right? Casting our eyes into the future. Thank you so much again, Professor Freddy Boey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.